Hello everyone and welcome to our Retired Review. Today we're taking a look at everything released for the BIONICLE Playset line. Everything from 2005 to 2007, obviously left to right. During its run of 3 years, the theme contained approximately 13 sets, only if you're counting the 2 promotionals from 2006 right down there. Otherwise, it was just a paltry 11. The BIONICLE Playset theme is fascinating for a variety of reasons. We see that every theme has its own unique flavor, or rather every year has its own unique flavor. In 2005, everything's very dark and gray and almost kind of grungy, which really does match 2005. Maybe not the gray, it's more of a greenish color, but it is awfully, dark and bleh. And it really does fit the tone of, bleakness that I guess the year was going for. In my opinion, the sets are interesting. Please excuse the animals. It's, like the flies and stuff. I mean, it's summer, for goodness sake. And yeah, I do have to apologize. I guess that I couldn't really find a better place than this to make this video. So, apologies for the inaccuracy from last week's video. In any case, back on topic. 2005, I think, works interestingly as an introduction. It's a good starting point for this theme in that it really sets a precedent for how we're going to see things done. BIONICLE didn't always follow, or at least the BIONICLE Playsets didn't always follow the precedent, but it's an interesting jumping off point. Through my reviews, I really did enjoy the battle for Mecha Nui, or Battle of Mecha Nui, whichever one. And of course I did like the Vizirac Battle Ram, however I do have some bias toward that since I got it during its release. As far as the Tower of Toa, I find it to be fine. I mean, you don't have to get it. I don't not recommend it, but I don't also immensely recommend it either. It's really going to come down to you and your personal preference. As far as the Vizirac's Gate, however, the one in the back right there, I really don't like it. I don't recommend it under any circumstances. And overall, 2005 is fine. I don't really think it does anything outstandingly. I don't recommend the 2005 BIONICLE wave of playsets as something you should absolutely get a hold of. While I do recommend the Battle of for Mecha Nui, I do think it's really good. It's not always the easiest to get a hold of. So if you're looking for more of a budget set, there are others as we go on down the line where you can find more value. And finally, as far as 05 is concerned, I again am really not a big fan of the burps, the big ugly rock pieces. I just don't think they're very visually interesting. I won't call them lazy, I just don't think that they're particularly good. I think the Battle of for Mecha Nui does it the best. However, it's clear that the overusage of them hit a peak with Vizirac's Gate. Moving on to 2006, we'll come back to 2005, don't get me wrong, we have to talk about the minifigures. But moving on to 2006, I think this is definitely, obviously enough, where it is. It's the mid-range wave. It's the mid-range of this playset theme, in that it does things really, really well. It does things a lot better than 2005. However, it also takes a few steps back, in my opinion, with some of the sets here. First of all, the Praa Stronghold is immaculate. I would say that if you were to buy any of these, I would recommend the Praa Stronghold. It is easily my favorite of the BIONICLE Playset theme. I think it's a fun, enjoyable system set, and also has such a really good feeling for a BIONICLE area. It's a BIONICLE location that feels really classic. It feels good. It's an interesting adaptation to what fans of the story know, and it's a lot of fun to play with. Outside of that, we do have the Race for the Mask of Life right there, which canonically doesn't serve any purpose. I don't think it's a bad set. It's also just nothing that really strikes me. It's nothing out of this world. It's just a tad peculiar in a lot of weird ways. You have these two craft, one of which looks really striking and cool, and the other which is rather hodgepodge and kind of awkward. And then you have a tower, which I also feel could have been a little beefier, could have been a little more, stylistically consistent, if that makes any sense. So overall, I think it's very passable. Meanwhile, over there with the Praa Stronghold, or Praa Outpost, rather, it's also something that I would say is the weakest of this wave. Now, this is a little bit contentious, given that you could say that the weakest of the 06 wave would be either Race for the Mask of Life or the Praa Outpost. Personally, I think you get less from the Praa Outpost, as opposed to the Race for the Mask of Life. The Outpost is cool, and it adds a distinct new color to this overall palette, that being brown. However, I don't think that the Fenrac spawn is gonna hold up over time. I mean, I don't think it has held up over time. I think standards for construction from LEGO have been massively increased, even system to a degree, have been so increased that it's clear this is an example of why they had to. It just doesn't hold up over time, literally and figuratively, given that top canopy, which will fall down without anything to hold it up. And as far as the Outpost is concerned, it's just a smidge bare bones. Finally, the Lava Chamber Gate, which I think is honestly quite a fun set, also seems like a little bit of a downgrade from the Praa Stronghold. Not as much of the iconography you've come to expect from something like a flagship, which I guess makes sense because it isn't. And also some rather peculiar surfboards with Zamor launchers and the Toa Inika riding them. It's a little skeletal, and while the function is fun, sometimes it can just look a little uneven, and I'm not the biggest fan of it for that reason. I don't think it's bad, but I also don't think that I'd recommend it as heartily as I would anything else. Finally, moving on to 2007, the wave that I've had the least experience with, given that at least with the other two I had one set from them upon the release. But 07's a blank slate to me. I would actually say, overall, I really enjoy 07. I think there's something to be said for the fact there are less sets. It is the smallest of all of these years. However, that being the case, 2 out of 3 of them I think are really good. It's only one of them that I think is the worst set out of all of them. That's including the little promotional figures right down there. I didn't even talk about them because there's nothing really to talk about. But at least they don't try. There's a question that comes up when it comes to sets like this. What is better? A set that tries and fails, or a set that succeeds by not trying at all? I don't know where I stand on that. However, as far as the... Gosh, which one is it? It's the Paraka... No, it's the Paraka. Baraki Undersea Patrol... No. Toa Undersea Attack, I think it is. The one with the whale, right there. I absolutely believe that it is the worst set of this entire theme. You can see my review for a more in-depth review of it. However, I just don't like it. There's nothing I like about it at all. On the other hand, I think that the Baraki Deep Sea Patrol, I believe that's the correct name, the one on the far right there, I think it's actually really good. Honestly, if I were to recommend any of these as an entry point into the BIONICLE Playset theme, it'd be that one. Because I think it's a reasonable combination between construction and system, being something recognizably Bionicle. If I had to say it was like anything we've seen before, I would say it's awfully similar to the Vaki Transport from Bionicle 2, Legends of Mechanui. However, it also has a striking appearance on its own, and it's a fun little conflict in a box with Hukimari and the Baraki, which I guess are chasing after him. And then finally, my second favorite from the entire theme would be the Toa Terrain Crawler. I think it's just such an excellent set. It's simply iconic, more iconic than the Praa Stronghold, and of course this is by design. Obviously, the advertisement worked. We think highly of the Toa Terrain Crawler because we recognize it from the website, where it's advertised, so of course we'd want to get it. And I think that works fine, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's also a fun set. It's really enjoyable. It's got a really cool look. It has a lot of functionality to it alone, and then there are the Rahi that come with it, the 2 creatures that accompany it. And all the minifigures are fine as well. So overall, while I think there are more good sets spread amongst all of the other waves, it really boils down to, while it's a smaller wave, it has more high-quality sets in comparison to the others. The amount of good quality sets, in my opinion, are higher in that wave compared to the amount in others, if that makes sense. There's a term for it, I just don't recall it right now. Finally, let's briefly discuss, while I still have light out here, thank you Summer for having so much extra light, but darn you, daylight saving time. Let's briefly talk about the minifigures, because obviously enough they've changed, and they change in every single year. In 2005, we had statuettes of both the good guys and the bad guys. This is not a good idea, and I highly recommend LEGO never do this again. I think there's a lot to be said for the articulation of minifigures, although I do flip-flop on the amount. I don't think you need to have minifigure range motion to have a really good minifigure. However, statuettes are unacceptable. You should not have those ever again in anything else, ever. And I do feel that the mini dolls come dangerously close to that, though I obviously admit they're much better. So there is nothing of interest as far as collectability is concerned with 2005. In addition, you get all 6 of every Visorak and every Toa Hordika in every single set. Moving to 2006, they changed drastically into something that's unique to their own. It's stylistic. It's something that says, we're not just normal Lego. We're not a Lego minifigure. We're a Bionicle minifigure. There are obviously many that think poorly of this decision, and I don't blame them. At the same time, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I don't dislike the minifigures, especially not in 06. They do a really good job of representing every primary canister set from the year in a small, scaled-down version, and I like that. And I also like that you can get all of them in one set, but you don't necessarily have to. You get a different experience with every set as far as what minifigures it comes with. However, I of course love the fact that we do get accurate minifigures that are fun to interact with in the Praa Stronghold most of all. And finally, the minor change in 2007. Unfortunately, it's not an upgrade, at least not to me. However, I'm not talking about the infrastructure of the figures themselves. They did change so that they would be a little bulkier and not as easy to break. However, by that point, I mean, these are the only places that I think those specific arm pieces are used. I don't recall them being used in anything else. So I don't think that's necessarily an issue. The issue is that a lot of the decisions made with the 2007 minifigures are perplexing. For starters, why are there so many bizarre recolors that almost seem to go out of their way not to match the canister sets like 2006 did? We have a mask, a mold for the correct mask for Nuparu Mari in the Toa Terrain Crawler. It's used in the set. It just isn't used on Nuparu Mari. And then comes the issue of that one right there. That whole thing is an unmitigated disaster, in my opinion, as far as the minifigures are concerned. Now, there is a good argument that, well, we are getting a lot of new and interesting recolors for customization, and I do agree. I actually don't think it's a bad thing that we have new and interesting parts. I think that's perfectly fine. That way, you have free reign to customize your figure how you see fit. I think that's fantastic. What I don't like is when those new pieces come at the cost of an entire minifigure. Now, I don't actually know if this is the case, but it does seem awfully peculiar to me that one of the only Toa Mari to show up in every single set is Hukimari. However, in the set that he shows up with the wrong mask, it's a perfect place to add the only canister set not represented in the entirety of these 3 years. Karapar. He's just not a thing at all. And that seems like the perfect area to add him. And I just don't know why they did not do that. Maybe that was their intention. I mean, it's passable. But it is stated that it's Hukimari. That was the intention. And so I find it awfully unfortunate that that opportunity is missed. It's not going to come by again. So at the end of the day, the BIONICLE Playset theme is interesting. It's an interesting case study. Because it's a look into Bionicle as a franchise, as a theme, in a different way. Obviously, TTV is known to a degree for doing Brickonicle, Bionicle G3, as it were. What would Bionicle look like in system? And I've said in the past, I think Bionicle would be successful as a system theme if it were run like Ninjago. And that opens up a fascinating conversation. At that point, is it really its own thing? Or is it following a template Ninjago has set up for it that removes its uniqueness, its originality? Because there's something to say for the fact that there aren't minifigures here, and that there are these unique Bionicle figures. I think there is something to say for that, for and against. However, you can't argue that it's unique. It's its own thing. And every set obviously does its best to include Bionicle pieces to really show you that, yeah, they're compatible. There are levels of compatibility, and you can't deny that. You hear that, Ryan? M&R Productions? You can't deny it! At the end of the day, I think Bionicle as system is possible. However, I think that its strength lies in the fact that you can create your own character. With normal system themes, like your story themes, like Ninjago, or Nexo Knights, or even Chima to a degree, it relies heavily on the characters themselves. It relies in interacting with other things. So it relies on characters on vehicles, characters in buildings, like the Praa Stronghold, for instance, or Battle 4 of Metru Nui. However, with Bionicle, it's heavily character-centric. It's heavily focused on you making your own character, making you as your own character, but making your own stories and characters within that. Sure, you can use the sets and the characters that are already pre-existing. However, Bionicle has always thrived off of character customization, personalization, and doing what you want with a figure, not necessarily a set, or rather a theme, or a scene, as it were. I think there is a world where both can happen. We've seen this in Knight's Kingdom, actually, and I think that worked out very well. That also ran for about 3 years. I'd like to see that again, not necessarily because I think System Bionicle is better than Construction Bionicle, but just because I think it's a fun dichotomy to look at. I think there is a rich potential for system themes from the Bionicle mythos. The Kini Nui, I've most notably said. I think we could even get a Colosseum again, because this Battle of Metru Nui is actually supposed to be the entrance to the Colosseum. I think there's a lot we could get, and a lot of interesting scenes that could be played out in the 3D realm. But I also think that Bionicle is unique in that it is a construction theme, and it's so heavily character-centric, in a way that other themes aren't necessarily. Do I think that Bionicle's system is bad? From what we've seen here, no. Do I think that it's excellent? Also no. Do I think that it's a fascinating look into a what could have been? Definitely. I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned from these sets, and I don't necessarily think that it's bad that they happened. But I also don't think it's a cautionary tale either. It's not something that we need to look at and go, ugh! It's just a different type of Bionicle experience, and I think that's really cool. Then that about covers it. Thank you all so very much for watching my retired reviews on Bionicle Playsets, 2005 to 2007. That wraps them. That's another, well, that's actually the first retired reviews theme that we've covered. It also means that I've reviewed every Bionicle set. Okay, I've said this before, but I mean everything this time. Generation 1's construction figures, Generation 2's construction figures, and now all the playsets. That's everything. Obviously, you can make an argument for the combo models, but who knows? Maybe I'll get to that one day. In any case, let me go ahead and answer some brief questions about the future of the retired reviews. For starters, it's going to continue, and the goal of the retired reviews is to review full themes like I have done here. Not Bionicle, but the Bionicle system playsets, for instance. So I'm talking about full themes like Rock Raiders, or Mars Mission, and so on and so forth. You kind of get the gist. So what's the next theme, a lot of people ask? Well, I know what it is. I know exactly what the next theme is. However, I can't tell you yet. What I can tell you is that no, it is not Hero Factory. Hero Factory is not the next theme I will be reviewing for the retired reviews. We are listening to you. We have seen the comments. I understand that they are very requested. However, I cannot tell you whether or not it's going to be happening right now. It is being discussed, and it's being discussed seriously. However, it's a bit of a complicated situation. I can't go into many details right now, but I will in the future. Now, as far as when the retired reviews are coming back, I would expect them at the earliest to come back in October of this year. So, look out for that. Look out for an announcement. I'm sure I'll be making it sometime in September. I hope. Don't hold me to that. Actually, no. Keep me accountable. Hold me to that. I'll do my best to get those out then. But the next theme has been selected. I think a lot of people will be pleasantly surprised. And it will be in a very similar fashion to this, where I'll be reviewing it set by set, and then having everything here in one place. Regardless, that about does it. Thank you so very much for watching. If there's anything you feel that I forgot to mention, or feel that you would like to add to this conversation about the Bionicle playsets versus construction, please feel free to do so in the comments below. And thank you all so very much for watching and joining me as I reviewed yet another full theme. That's been it. I'm Eljay. Thank you once again so much for watching. And most importantly, have a wonderful day. Farewell.